Hi there, welcome to the archives. I thought I would get on here today and do Africville. All month I've been saying it. Oh, not all month, but yeah, all month. I said I would do a post on Africville, and so called. This is a series called "Righting Canada's Wrongs." They have a bunch of different topics. There's residential schools. There's anti-Semitism. There's a Chinese head tax, um, Komataga Maru, which is the Canadians and anti-Indian immigration policies. There's the Italian Canadian internment and the Japanese Canadian internment. So, Writing Canada's Wrongs is a series. This one looks specifically at Africville. It's called Africville. An African Nova Scotian community is demolished and fights back. This is the second edition, and it's written by Gloria and Wesley. So Africville is dedicated to all the resilient people who have fought, who continue to fight to right the wrongs of racism and bigotry, and who faithfully challenge imbalances of power for justice and quality of life. Um, and so I'll just give you a little bit of what Africville is. So Africville, this is Nova Scotia, by the way. This is what the island, is Nova Scotia an island? Kind of, but not really. It's kind of still situated on the mainland. Um, but you could see there's a part there that definitely looks like an island. So Nova Scotia has many communities where black immigrants and refugees settled, including Africville. And so Africville is at number 24. You can see all the different Shelburne, Yarmouth, Digby, Annapolis, Kings, Hants, Halifax, Pictou, Cumberland, Cape Breton, Queens, Antigonish, is that how you say it? And Gainsborough. I visited Halifax and do we do Cape Breton? In high school. My rugby team did a rugby tour out east. I don't know, it was in grade 10 or 11 or something like that. Grade 11. And so Nova Scotia, I've only been out there once, but it's on the east coast of Canada. So you're moving out from Ontario, you're going through Quebec, you're passing New Brunswick, and you're going into Nova Scotia. Okay, so basically the settlement of Africville, it took place in 1848 when William Brown and William Arnold, black refugees who fled the War of 1812, became landowners there. Um, it's located on the southern shore of Bedford Basin, and Africville is originally known as Campbell Road Settlement after the road that was built to connect Bedford Basin to Halifax. Okay, so over some time, Africville grew into a really close-knit community, and by 1917, Africville had over about 400 residents. It had stores, it had schools, there was a post office there, and there was even a Seaview United Baptist Church, which was a spiritual and social center, is what the book says. And so for former residents, it was their home, right? It was a thriving community. People supported each other. They made their own living. They had dignity. They paid their taxes. And over the years, the city refused to install basic services such as water, sewage, paved roads. They withheld police services and fire protection, right? At the same time, there was a long list of dangerous and unhealthy industries and institutions that were forcing the site of Africville to completely close down. So there's a lot of environmental racism. People tried to fight back. In the end, they lost the battle. So Africville existed for 120 years by the time it was demolished by the city of Halifax in the mid 1960s. So in the 60s is when the city of Halifax came for them and just tore it down. Its residents were forcibly relocated, many to public housing, and to parts of the city's urban renewal and desegregation strategies. But the residents were not interested in reforms or integrating into a city where their culture, their values, and their freedoms would be lost, is what it says here, right? They just basically wanted the assistance to improve the existing community, right? We don't want to leave. We just want you to help us to make it better. Um, and so activists like Eddie Carvery, a former resident of Africville, began his protest after the last resident, Aaron Pa Carvery, left in 1970. And so Eddie Carvery, basically he moved to a trailer with Africville protest painted on the side. Um, and he's been fighting against the wrongs of his family and other residents for over 50 years. So even though residents vowed, they voiced their discontent, and they demanded meetings with the city, it just was overlooked. And how the city of Halifax didn't care about them. And so they were given very little opportunity to affect the city's action and policies. And so this is Irvine Carvery. So the Carvery family is really important to Africville. When he was 13, Irvine basically was 13. The bulldozers started to come. They raised Africville, and there, like I said, there was an ongoing battle against the Halifax Regional Municipality, HRM. Finally, right? So this was in the 1960s. It was basically demolished. Finally, in 2010, the Halifax Regional Municipality issued an apology. After all of those decades, they got an apology in 2010 for the treatment of the residents. Some were satisfied, others were not. In 2016, so 10 years ago, a large group of former residents and descendants, including plaintiffs Nelson Carvery and Tony Smith, joined a lawsuit against the Halifax Regional Municipality over the loss of their land. And so there's a lot of different stories from former Africville residents that can help us understand what it means to lose a community of free and independent citizens. And so as a result, people whose presence was like thriving, right? It was active community members. It just were shoved aside, pushed to the margins. Even when they lived there, the sewer system, it just was not great infrastructure, right? And so they were displaced, but they still fought back. So that's a little bit about Africville overall. The book also goes into like slavery in the Americas, right? So how it started a lot earlier than 1650. Over here it says beginning in the 1650. But you have to remember 1619 is when the first ships came to the United States. A lot of them were sent earlier to other places like the Caribbean and to Europe as well too, right? So it did start earlier than in 1960, but Europeans and African enslaved slave traders, basically, it said that 11 to 15 million Black West Africans were captured, right? We talk a lot about the Holocaust. I think the Holocaust was like 6 to 10 million. We don't even talk about before the European Holocaust of the Namibians. We don't talk about Congo, all of the genocides that happened there, right? It's just like, as you're seeing, I've always saw, black pain doesn't mean shit to this world, right? If it didn't happen to white people, then it didn't happen at all. The Holocaust against Europeans, Jews, oh my god, the worst thing. The genocide and the Holocaust against Black Africans, Namibians, they don't care. Congolese people, they don't care. The 15 million West Africans that were captured and sold and enslaved, stop talking about it. Just get over it. Imagine saying that to a Jewish person, right? You saw from the BAFTAs, they couldn't even say Free Palestine. that got beeped out. The N-word, just forgive. Get over it. Aren't you tired of being a victim? And so the book goes into the early um, movement of enslaved Africans in Nova Scotia. It talks about Reverend James McGregor, who was a powerful anti-slavery campaigner, him and his family in Pictou County. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave it there. That was an overall of Africville. I'm gonna do another one that goes into the early black settlement in Nova Scotia, actually, right? We talked about the Maroons earlier. They were part of it. There's black loyalists. There's a whole community, a thriving black community. Um, in Ontario, I know that Chatham, Ontario, is one of the early black settlements of actual enslaved Canadians. I'm not farting, I'm just moving in my chair. Not that it matters if I did. But there are settlements in Canada, in Ontario, and Quebec. I'm not familiar with the settlements of Quebec, but I know Chatham, Ontario is one. There's another settlement close to Windsor where a lot of black Canadians settled who either came from the United States or other parts, and they have been here for generations and generations as well too, right? So I'll end this here, and then I'll continue to go through some of the book for now. But this is the basic background of Africville. Um, Black Canadians settled there in 1848. They built their own community, and the infrastructure, they didn't get a lot of help from the Canadian government. They asked for help from the Canadian government. The Canadian government, Halifax Municipal, what are they called? Regional municipality was like, we don't care about you, blacks. And matter of fact, not only do we not care about you, we're going to remove you from here so we can create developments and make money off of this land that you are occupying. So they got removed from the community. They weren't able to get an apology until 2010. And former residents launched a lawsuit against the city. Okay, so that just gives you a little bit. There's way more to the story, obviously. So I'll try to skim through some of the different sections of the book. But this is Africville, an African Nova Scotian community is demolished and fights back. Okay, so until next time, in solidarity.